Good evening, everyone. My name is Celeste Lacabra. Welcome back to my channel. Okay, so this is the second episode of Cinema Sepulcher, the show where I discuss 3 unwatched films from my Blu-ray collection in hopes of rescuing them from rotting on the shelf like a fetid corpse in a forgotten tomb. My little buddy Bigwig has decided to join us today. Say hi, Bigwig. I don't know if you can hear it, but throughout the video there might be some storming, but it should only add to the atmosphere, I think, of this gloomy discussion that we'll be having. Not really, but it's kind of my vibe. So anyway, the first of the films that I want to discuss today is Nightmare Weekend. This is a 1980s sort of horror exploitation title from Vinegar Syndrome. And I want to talk about it first because it's probably the easiest to ease myself into and talk about because it really wasn't very good and there wasn't much going on. So the plot of the film is really borderline incomprehensible. Like, I'm not sure how much thought went into this or how much they actually cared about making it make any sense. But essentially you have sort of a mad scientist plot where the scientist has created this machine which, through means that I do not understand, somehow corrects bad behavior in people and animals. He does it on dogs at first and cats, but he doesn't want to move on to human trials yet, but his assistant, she wants to, because she has nefarious plans of some sort. So she invites a bunch of teenagers over to participate in the experiments and have sex with each other and turn into really horrific creatures, I guess. I'm going to try not to spoil this, but I don't really know how much I can spoil. It's not good. I don't know. There's things I liked about it. Like, it definitely has a camp factor to it, and it's fun to watch with other people. Like, it's very roastable. There's just a lot of silly stuff going on in it, but I don't know. Camp can only get you so far if your idea doesn't make any sense and it's not particularly funny or immensely entertaining or anything like that. I don't know. It's just really nonsensical, to be honest with you. But it's nonsensical in a way where it's either horrible or really great, and I can't really tell, but I think it's horrible. I gave this one a 5 out of 10. I could see myself rewatching it at some point, so I'm not sure if I want to sell it, but I do really love this artwork, which actually makes a lot more sense once you've seen the film. It's just, I mean, the artwork is 10 times better than the film itself, so, you know. I'd say check it out, but go into it, you know, with your expectations tempered a bit. In terms of themes, like, I mean, I guess you have the standard kind of mad scientist sort of angle that you could look at it through, but I don't know. I don't know that there's anything going on really thematically in this. Another fun bit is that all the voices are dubbed, and it's really obvious. So it feels like you're watching like an Italian horror or something, but it's in English with English actors. So I don't know. That's Nightmare Weekend. Oh, watch the trailer. The trailer is very funny. If you do a drinking game for the amount of times that the narrator says Nightmare Weekend in the fucking 3-minute trailer, actually don't do that. That might be lethal. The next title I wanted to talk about was Arrebato from Altered Innocence. This is a Spanish film directed by Ivan Zulueta. That's my best guess. To try to describe this film is pretty difficult, especially when I want to avoid spoilers. And for this one, I really do want to avoid spoilers because I think it's a really overlooked, underseen, and underrated gem. And I think more people should really go seek it out and see it. It is currently available on Vinegar Syndrome's website through the partner label tab, and it's currently streaming on the Criterion channel. I don't know for how much longer, but one little fun tidbit about that is that the distribution company for Altered Innocence is called Anus Films. I don't know how well that's focusing. Not very well. But anyway, it's like the Janus Films logo, but it says Anus Films, and it's incredible. But the fun thing about it is that you'll get to see the Anus Films logo open a film on the Criterion channel. So anyway, this film is about a kind of independent horror director who meets another even more independent filmmaker in that he only really makes home videos. He's also a heroin addict. And again, it's really hard to describe this at all, but especially without giving away the ending, because I think everything kind of reveals itself at the end in terms of what it's trying to achieve thematically and what the whole point of it is from the beginning. Essentially, the second person leaves him a videotape or an audio tape to listen to that includes some instructions. And you don't really understand what he's trying to do with that until the end of the film. It's kind of like a vampire film without any vampires. It's definitely a queer story with definitely a more subtle approach to those themes than, something that's entirely obvious. In fact, it's kind of up for interpretation because I don't see a lot of people talk about that, but I think it's definitely there. This film really seems to be tackling themes of addiction and how that relates to cinema, and specifically how that relates to cinema as a physical object, like as a tangible piece of film. The director was actually a heroin addict himself and was using heroin during the making of this film. There's a documentary about the director included on the disc where he talks about the fact that he didn't sleep at all during the making of this film because he was just always high. And that's, he claims is like the only thing that actually got him to finish the project was his drug use. You picking something to watch? What do you want to watch tonight? You're like right in the shot. That's okay, I guess. So yeah, I think there's definitely a connection that he's trying to make between his own drug addiction and his addiction to cinema, and how devoting yourself to a project like that can completely envelop you in the same way that hard drugs can. I think there's a read on it where he can be endorsing things like heroin use, but again, it's really up for debate and it's up to interpretation. I think the film is fantastic. I've never seen anything like it. I will say that. Like, when it was over, me and my partner were both just like, we've never seen anything like that before. We weren't even entirely sure what happened or how to interpret it, If you're into really weird films, if you're into art house films, if you're into art house horror specifically, this one's definitely a slower burn and one that will reveal itself to you, but I think it's one that's certainly worth your time. Like I said, there's a documentary on the director that's included. I wish it went a little more into the themes that he was exploring, because this is the only film he ever did. There's a lot of time spent just in his house, talking to him, looking at his old artwork, stuff like that. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good portrait of a pretty reclusive figure. So I think it's definitely worth a look, and I'm really glad that it's included. But I guess I wish it went a little more, it dug a little deeper. So yeah, that's Arrebato. Again, sorry that my descriptions were rather vague, but it's really difficult to talk about it without spoiling it. But again, if it's not doing it for you, I really encourage you to stick it out to the end, because the ending sequence is really, it's pretty frightening, but it's also really incredible and unique. So go check it out. Okay, the last film I want to discuss today is Kurosawa's The Hidden Fortress. This edition comes from the Criterion Collection. Yeah, we're continuing with my Kurosawa trend where I think all of his films are like a solid 8 out of 10. And this one might be my least favorite of the ones that I've seen from him, but again, it's still really great. This was actually his first venture into widescreen, and he really utilizes it. There's some absolutely stunning like landscape and sequence shots in this. Just some really breathtaking imagery in this film. The film basically follows like two kind of bumbling Japanese peasants as they try to join the army and then are taken prisoner and then meet up with like a legendary samurai to try to find some hidden gold from his defeated clan to try and build it up again and defeat their enemies. That's the basic premise. And I think it explores really deeply themes of loyalty and honor and honesty. Toshiro Mifune's character really goes into like the samurai code and his devotion to the princess and to his clan. And that's kind of juxtaposed with the two bumbling oaf characters who really have no allegiance to anything except their own greed and stupidity. You know, sometimes they're really funny, but sometimes like they could really get on your nerves. Like, man, some of these scenes I was just like, I hope you die. You know? I really want to talk about the princess character though, because I think she's the highlight of the whole thing. You know, it's really great to see such a strong female presence in a film that's so masculine and, you know, from the 1950s. But she just has this great look with these amazing sharp eyebrows. You know, she like doesn't take any shit and like whips dudes' asses with just a stick of bamboo, you know? She says a lot without saying anything for an extended sequence of this film. So Mifune's character is also just incredible. I mean, he really is an actor that was like no other. And his presence just commands your attention and commands the screen whenever he's on it. It's kind of impossible to talk about Hidden Fortress without talking about Star Wars because it's very obviously a huge influence for George Lucas. It's obvious just from like the shots and the writing and the characters. There's videos and articles out there really going into the parallels between the two films. And also George Lucas has like straight up said it. Like, yeah, I obviously took cues from this. I think he underplays it a little bit because from what I've heard, the first draft of A New Hope was literally a shot-by-shot, line-by-line recreation of Hidden Fortress, and that was the basis that he used to kind of build off of from there. There's a special feature on this disc where George Lucas talks about Akira Kurosawa and his influence, and I think he definitely downplays it a bit. He's like, oh, it's a coincidence that we both have princesses in our movie. You know, they act differently, even though shots are very similar and the attitudes of the princesses are very similar. There's one scene in particular that is almost entirely lifted from this, but you know, when I was first watching it, I was like, why do people think this is Star Wars? Like, because it's not, you know? If you're expecting this to be like the secret film that Star Wars basically remade, it isn't. If you know where to look, the parallels are pretty clear-cut. There's also another one of those It Is Wonderful to Create documentaries on it, which I think are really great so far. I've been watching them, and I think that they are just really tightly paced. They run a good length, and they go pretty in-depth. This one kind of has like a somber tone to it, because it kind of goes into Kurosawa and Mifune's deaths, but there's some fun anecdotes from people who worked on the film and who worked with Kurosawa in general. Again, he kind of just seems to be this kind of tyrannical presence on set, but I mean, everyone agrees that he produced amazing work, so it's one way to go about it, I guess. I guess the other thing I wanted to talk about real quick is that there's a lot of shots in this film. I mean, while they're breathtaking, just the amount of extras crammed into such a small amount of space, like running downstairs and shit, I was like, I mean, there's gotta be, what, double digits number of injuries going on here? Like, I don't know. It gave me anxiety thinking about being an extra on set. Okay, so I think I managed to do all of these today without any spoilers, so that's good. So for next week, because these videos come out every Friday, if you want to follow along at home and do your homework this week, next week we're going to be checking out Scum, Mad Dog Morgan, and Corruption. You may have noticed that these are all Indicator titles, but they're specifically all Indicator limited edition titles because they take up a lot of shelf space, and it's kind of embarrassing to look at them and be like, I haven't watched them yet, you know? So, the one that I've seen so far is Irreversible, and I think that that is a really fantastic edition from Indicator. So, I'm excited to dive into some genre pictures for next time, and Yeah, until then, my links are in the description if you want to follow me on Instagram, Letterboxd, and Rate Your Music. Um, expect new videos soon. I have a couple ready to go that I've shot that I just need to edit and put out. Yeah, I'll see you next time. Thank you all for watching. I love you very much, and I hope that your day ends better than it started.